What is up, guys? Welcome to the Unfazed Facts podcast, a podcast dedicated to all things Gym Leader Challenge. I'm your co-host, Joshua Benson, and I am with my other co-host, Jeff Baisch, and we're going to talk about some good old GLC today. We're going to talk about some tournaments that happen. We're going to talk about some different cool things that are going to come from Prismatic Evolutions, if you can get your hands on some of those cards. And then from there, we're going to also talk about just some things in general, like what's going to be coming out of Prismatic Evolutions. But other than that, you know, it's been a pretty busy day. I've got my Zevia right here in my Pickle Ball koozie. We got bread and butter. My wife plays a lot of pickleball. She won sweepstakes and has 100 pickleballs a year sent directly to our door. It's absolutely insane. This is the first person I've ever known to win a sweepstakes. Have you ever won a sweepstakes, Jeff?
I have not. Never, ever have I won a sweepstakes. Nor have I won one for pickleballs. That's really super impressive. Also, finding out for the first time ever that your wife enjoys pickleball. My wife is also someone who enjoys pickleball. I don't know if it's for the actual gameplay or if my wife is just a huge fan of like hanging out with older women. But, you know, every Thursday night when she doesn't have pottery, because that's her other Thursday night event. It alternates between pottery and pickleball. But yeah, we gotta, if you guys ever find yourself this way, we'll have to do some doubles on pickleball, and then we'll go play with some adult Play-Doh afterwards. That's what I have to tell my toddler that my wife is going to do. Oh yeah, Mom, she's just going to go play with some Play-Doh. She'll be back.
Man, you really threw me off with that adult Play-Doh. I was like, really? They make that? And then I was like, it's clay, pottery. That is great. That is absolutely phenomenal. But I'm glad to see that you're doing well. I'm glad to see that your wife plays pickleball. Pickleball is one of those sports. It's just like giant ping pong, little tennis. I actually love it. I used to play with my wife all the time, just with each other, you know. But have you played with your wife?
Yeah. We went on a couple. I actually had to go buy the paddles because she was like so busy that she could never get around to buy the paddles. So I had to like buy the paddles. We had to get a babysitter. We went out and played pickleball on one of our date nights, and that's where she kind of took off from there. But it was definitely a time where like I think I was coming off like a groin injury after doing some like long distance running, and just like I was like, hey, pickleball is like the perfect amount of exercise for someone who's coming off an injury. So that's my main thing about pickleball is like I'm not going to get injured. I think having some fun smashing that pickleball.
Has your wife upgraded? Actually, here's a better question. How many pickleball paddles does she have?
Well, we just have the 2. She's what I wish I could be with a lot of my hobbies. She's just like super casual about it. Like she loves to be like in the moment competitive, but she isn't like trying to like sign up for tournaments and like win them, right? It's like that person that you see walking a 5K. Like she's just there for the good time. And like that's just super commendable of her for that. And she's just like, yeah, I just played a couple games and I came home and I'm all good.
Man, my wife left me in the dust. She's on this team. She's like trying to get her pro card with it every now and then. She's got like 4 to 5 paddles, and they're not cheap. They're not cheap, Jeff. And it digs into my Pokemon fund.
I mean, this sounds like me in disc golf. Like your wife is just going through a phase that I went through in disc golf. I had to buy like every disc. I had like the professional backpack. I was going to tournaments every weekend.
Okay, there you go.
My wife was like, you can't keep doing that, bro. And I was like, yep, I can't. And here we are. Now I play Pokemon. All the stuff that I do for GLC, I used to do for disc golf. So your wife is like one step away from running a pickleball Discord. She's one step away from running pickleball tournaments. You know, all this stuff. She's going to have a pickleball podcast. You know what? You got to set up. I got to set up. Our wives should just have a pickleball podcast.
I know. She needs to talk about it. She really does. She knows so much, and it just blows my mind. But that being said, you know, we got some cool, speaking of pickleballs, we got some cool Pokeballs to talk about. And those Pokeballs come out in this new set called Prismatic Evolutions, which I don't know if you noticed, Jeff, Surging Sparks came out, and you know, you probably got some. I don't know if you did. You got some singles, you got some boxes to open maybe. And then you kind of found out, you're like, okay, now, well, why haven't I seen any more? That's what I did anyways. I was like, where's the packs at? Like, where's the ETBs? Where's anything? And lo and behold, I come to find out, because I hadn't been like keeping up with it too much like I had been in the past, but people are buying things up. Have you seen the prices for some of those singles?
After I bought my like introductory Surging Sparks cards, I really haven't gone back. There was really only like, I know we did our set review on it. There's really like 12 to 15 cards that I really needed. Bought them up. Full art Kofus I think are still really cheap. Did Kofu come out in that or still a Crown now I think about it? But
probably Crown.
Probably Crown. But yeah, I can't. But yeah, I really haven't been back to buy it all at all for the Surgeon Spark stuff. So this is all news to me, but also I never buy packs typically. I'm a singles guy, Josh.
Really? Yeah, I'm a big pack guy. I do like opening packs. That's what, one of the things that was how I started my other channel. Was just like opening packs, because I enjoyed opening packs, and I just like talking about like the playability and the collectability, because I love doing both. Lately here, the playability has kind of gotten to the collectability fund. So now I'm like, what do I want to do? But it's just, playing all the time with them. But anyways, yeah, I couldn't find any for MSRP, and I was like, what is going on? And then I had some dude come into the Discord, into like one of our, Discords for my local LGS, and he was like, I got some Surging Sparks ETBs if anybody wants them. And I was like, sweet, he said $70 each, and I was like, no, if you sell these for MSRP, yeah, I'll give you money for them. I'm not spending $20 extra, but some of those singles in there, like the Pikachu illustration rare and some of those other ones, are pretty hefty in price.
Yeah.
Which brings me to Prismatic Evolutions.
Yeah, I mean, this set is like just for collectors almost. I mean, we're talking about like a 55% reprint set. I think there's like 45% that are new cards, but you've got all of these fancy printings, Josh, that are coming out in this set too. And I'll let you talk a little bit more about these two things that we have displayed on screen.
Yes, this is one of the reasons, in two different ways, of like why Prismatic Evolutions is going to be really kind of hard to get unless if they print it to the moon like Shining Fates. But we have some really cool printings of, you can see we have this Umbreon side to side here. This first one to your left is going to be like this nice Pokeball pattern, and it's going to be on all trainers. It's going to be on all A-specs if you play standard or anything like that. But you're going to be able to have access to some cool bling for your decks if they come in the set, and be able to have access to this. And if you're a max rarity guy, you have Master Ball, which is going to be the other one. And some of these are probably going to get pretty pricey up there, because Master Balls is going to be almost probably about as on par as probably getting an illustration rare, I believe. I'm not sure about the pull rates and stuff like that, but Master Balls are probably going to be pretty hard to get your hands on. So if you get one of the Evolutions with a Master Ball on it, that's awesome. You can sell it, get some more GLC singles if you're into that. Other than that, yeah, Prismatic Evolutions is going to be really cool. We're going to have these two nice designs to get in your reverse holo slots.
Yeah, I mean, I love these. I love the look of these. I'm sure they feel great too. Just kind of looking at them.
Oh yeah,
I'm just so bummed. They've got, like, for those of you who are listening, they've got like obviously the Pokeball and the Master Ball symbols in the middle, and then they have kind of like the Terra Prisms all throughout the rest of the card. And I'm just like, I wish that in Gym Leader Challenge we just got a Terra Pokemon. So it's going to be like, I don't know, maybe a little sad to like sit here with this like Terra looking card without actually having that exist in our format. But you know what? It's fine. They look sweet. They're going to feel great. And again, I'm hoping that, like you said, they print them to the moon. That way we don't have to worry too much about pricing going forward.
Oh, yeah. One of the things you brought up, like a Terra single prizer, which would be really cool. But if they do that, I think one of the things that they might do is like what they did with the most recent Radiant Pokemon, where it'll be a rule box Pokemon. Yeah. So that's what I'm afraid of. Like, it would be really cool if they printed a Terra Pokemon, but if they did, it might be like you can only have one of these in your deck or something like that, possibly. So,
yeah. I mean,
hope not, though.
the biggest copium that I have is just like I want some of these unplayable cards to be playable. Like I want to play a dark Tyranitar, but I can't because the evolutions are not dark. They're fighting, right? So that's what I'm hoping for. Terra, give us Delta species. I don't care what it is. Just give me a way to play some cards in Gym Leader Challenge. I don't want the Gym Leader Challenge rules to change. I want the card game to adapt, and so I think that's where we're at with it. But until then, we'll all just be sad as we can't play our Evolutions, our Scizors, our Steelixes, and Metal decks. We'll just be sad about those things. But you know what we won't be sad about, or maybe we will be sad, is some of these cards that are coming out in Prismatic Evolutions that are original cards. And this, Josh, this card we're going to talk about first is the one that probably will make us the saddest.
Yep, this is going to make us sad boy summer. Very sad boy summer. We got Budew. Has 30 HP. Keep that in mind. But it has the Itchy Pollen attack for free, hitting for 10. During your opponent's next turn, they can play any item cards from their hand. Now, you can play this in any grass deck if you want to slow your opponent down, and control grass decks and Rillaboom grass decks. But what's really interesting about this card in GLC is that item cards are extremely, extremely important early on. And in GLC, most of the time you're trying to go second so you can play your supporters. And supporters are good and all, but most of the time you're playing your supporters to be able to find items to use. Whether that be like you can't play Ball Guy to get balls to play. And it's going to be very interesting. Now in Standard, because I dabble in Standard and GLC. Standard, it's going to maybe slow down the game 1-2 turns. But in GLC, it has the potential, since GLC is a lot slower of a format, it has the potential to slow it down an incredible amount. Like, you think you might have a dead draw just like in GLC without this guy? Well, keep drawing your items that you wish you could use at any other time, but you can't now, So it's gonna be pretty tough, Jeff. It's gonna be pretty tough.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about Ball Guy. I mean, turn one Ball Guy still gonna be good, right? Because if you're doing that, you're the person who has Budew in the active spot. But yeah, it's going to kind of change maybe how we have to go about building decks if this becomes popular. Obviously, we might have to go back to the Bridget, Gloria, Sonia days that I feel like we had kind of moved on from with the printing of cards like Battle VIP Pass and Buddy Buddy Poffin, which are item cards which aren't going to be as good now with Budew maybe existing. But of course, still early days. Does Grass have the ability to get Budew into play, get it into the active consistently on turn 2? And I just don't see that necessarily being the case. And I actually get to speak with a little bit of experience here because we had this week on our stream, we did a future fight, and Logan and I played some future builds. He was playing this Budew in his Rillasaur list, which is known for Rillaboom and Venusaur, the one that gets 2 energy from your deck, attaches them to your Pokemon, and then the Venusaur that doubles up all the energy. So that Budew kind of afforded him some time to get set up in some situations. But I also just ran over him. I think I was like 4-1 against it. But I was also playing Turbo Colorless with the new Hops card, which is like a crazy busted deck. So I think Budew is going to be good, though. I think like this is going to be something that's going to slow the game down. I don't know if it will always be the case, but like Grass is falling a bit behind. You and I both rated Grass pretty low when we did our end of the year review. So maybe this gives Grass a leg up, and I think it's going to see play in every Grass deck. I think a deck we're going to talk about later on, which is why we have this Irritating Pollen Violet Plume on the string, which also stops all items from being played, is another card that maybe goes hand in hand with this Budew in total.
Oh, yeah, you can get that early item lock at the beginning and early, like mid-game to late-game Violet Plume, so that's going to be super spicy going into that.
I just don't know. I just don't know if it's going to be good, Josh. I want it to be, obviously there's a lot of things that hit for 30. Is our optimal basic just going to be, obviously you check the boxes. Hey, does it have 70 HP? Check. Does it have 1 retreat? Check. Can it do 30 damage with a muscle band potentially for 1 energy? Check. Like, these are all things that you might have to check off your list now that Budew exists in the format. Are we going to see Lux Cape Budew?
Colorless might still be a decent matchup for it really well, because it has access to like things like jet energy, which can just like plop something up there that can hit for 30 if need be. But the thing is like how much did it slow it down? So there's all sorts of things. Like it could be very good, it could be mid, it could be bad. So you never truly know until it is there.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that it does damage is pretty cool too. We had a couple instances come up where like Itchy Pollen for free, right? Like you get to item lock without even a coin flip, and then you're doing 10 damage. So he got to like chip in 10 damage on my Hops Cramorant, got its HP into a reasonable state for something to KO it kind of easily. But, so it's a good card. Free Retreat is always good. Free Attack, always good. We'll have to see if it can actually find its way into the active early enough to be relevant.
Yes, 100%. Then we got this Sea King. Now, if you were a fan of the festival grounds, now you have Sea King coming out. And Sea King is actually kind of cool a little bit. You have the festival lead attack. If festival grounds is in play, this Pokemon may use an attack it has twice. And of course, if you knock out the active with one attack, they have to promote and you get to do damage to the new Pokemon as well. But it's kind of cool that this Sea King right here specifically has this attack for 1 energy. It's very similar to Jumpluff in this case with Festival Grounds out. You're hitting for 60. But unlike Jumpluff, you're not drawing 2 cards every time you do that. So it is a very interesting thing. And if you're trying to build your deck around this, it might not be the most consistent. But at the same time, Water has ways to make things more consistent. So it might balance out and make it like a regular, consistent deck. But Sea King has the potential to be kind of like a fun meme deck. Just like rapid draw 60, draw 2, 60, draw 2, and have a little bit of fun with it. But you also have this Goldeen right here, which has the Whirlpool 10 for 2 colors, flip a coin. If has discarded energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. So if you're, in a pinch right there and you haven't got your Sea King yet, and you got Festival Grounds, Goldeen, then you have the potential to just kind of get rid of your opponent's energy if you flip heads for 2 energy. Sometimes that's 2 turns of energy attachments that you could set your opponent back. And if they don't have acceleration, then that can usually, set them back quite a bit, pretty bad. So Sea King definitely has some fun potential to be had in your water decks. What do you think about this specific Sea King, Jeff?
I like it a lot. You mentioned it being a meme deck, and I'm kind of on the fence about where it might see play. We've seen water decks kind of become a little bit more efficient recently. We've had 2 different Palafins, one costing 1 energy, one costing 2 that can hit some pretty big damage.
Yeah.
You've got the Feraligatr that hits huge numbers for 2 energy. So like Water's gotten a little bit more efficient with their attack cost. So could I see Sea King finding itself into a build like that? 100%. I mean, 1 energy, 60 damage, draw 2 cards on a stage 1 is already like a decent rate. Like it's not like groundbreaking, but like damage plus draw cards is pretty good. All of a sudden you add in some damage mods if you need them in that style of deck. Just imagine putting a Muscle Band on this. All of a sudden 80, draw 2 cards. That's 160, draw 4 cards, right? Like that is bonkers. Is that worth putting Festival Grounds and Goldeen in your water deck? Maybe. I mean, it's just kind of like, what is going to happen with it? Is that going to be good enough? I mean, I could definitely see, especially since it's a stage 1, if you get attacking with just the Sea King on your second turn after going first, that could be pretty devastating, especially since, you can add those damage mods to make those numbers go higher. I know everyone's switching to 70 HP basics just because of some snipe worries from other people, but 60 damage is still going to be good. Throw a Muscle Band on there too, it's even better.
Oh yeah, and you said Muscle Band as like a way to get the attack higher. I believe that Water has access to a Pokemon called Ludicolo, and if you evolve it all the way, now I'm saying this knowing that there has to be a lot going right for you. Like this is the memeiest of meme decks. But if you can pull this off, Ludicolo gives you an extra 100 damage for that turn. And if you can get that and have Festival Grounds and Sea King out and have you're hitting for 160 and 160 back to back, which would be kind of just funny to see.
Yeah. Like the cool thing about this, like, you know, people have played the Delta Plus Articuno in the past to take extra prizes. People have gone about that a different way, where like they've used maybe Blindside to use the Delta Plus Articuno to do certain things. So like this could just be like another viable include in a deck that is already running that Delta Plus Articuno as another way to take 2 prizes if they need to.
Yeah.
The Sea King's a little bit better early, whereas the Articuno is definitely better after you spread around damage. So if you're playing that Articuno in your deck and you just like hit for the 60 and draw 2 cards, you're just setting yourself up for the double prize, like catch up with the Articuno, because it's likely that you're going to flip the heads that you need to for the Articuno to do damage. It's like 20 plus 40 for each heads. You flip 3 coins. I think it's tri-edge attack Articuno. Yeah. So, you know, just something to think about too. Like all water builds can be good if Inteleon is in your deck, right? So like if Inteleon needs to go and grab you Evolution, Incense, and Festival Grounds, you'll be fine if you're taking 2 prizes, or if you're doing 160 and drawing 4 cards. Like that's a good use of your Inteleon right there.
Yeah, Inteleon is just so good that you just, probably every water deck is playing it, regardless if you want to or not, because it's both an attacker and its abilities are just out of this world. Like it's just such a good card. It might be one of the best cards ever made. It's like ever.
I would go as far as it's probably the best card. It's the best evolution line in Gym Leader Challenge, and I will fight someone for that. I will stay on my hill for that one. Like that is probably the best card in all of Gym Leader Challenge, because it's a lot of water decks live and die on getting turn 2 Drizzile.
You heard it here first. Jeff is on top of the hill waiting to fight people over Inteleon.
And I'm a vegetarian pacifist, so that should say
that's saying so much right here. On this next one, we got Emiris, if I'm saying that correctly. It's draw 4 cards at the end of this turn. If you have 5 or more cards in your hand, discard your hand. Jeff, this card is it good? Is it bad? What is it?
That's a great question, Josh. And my answer to you is maybe. No idea. Absolutely no idea what this card's going to be good. But it's such like an interesting like design space, right? Like there's so many of these like Ina builds that are running around where like you have so many playable cards in your hand where you can just like, you could get your hand down to under 5 even if you draw 4 more cards, right? Like all of a sudden you're like flipping coins for like X-Transceiver, or there's like the same thing that maybe gets you any card from your deck. I can't remember what it's called. Maybe that is X-Transceiver. But there's all these like coin flip items, or like items that, you know, are going to put Pokemon onto your bench that you can just kind of like exhaust from your hand. So like, is that going to be that big of a deal in those builds for you to draw extra cards and then discard your hand? I don't know. And then you just look at decks that like want discard synergy. Like, hey, do you want to discard your hand? Maybe, because you're going to be setting up a pretty sweet Archie's or Maxie's play. Like imagine maybe there's like a fire build that's running Mustard. I think there's someone in one of the Discords that's running a Mustard fire build, right? You like Macargo, put Mustard on top of your deck, right? You play Emiris to like, you got to do this in a different order, but you know, you draw 4 cards, you know, you have to discard your hand at the end, but you've stacked Mustard on top of your deck. All of a sudden you can just go ham. Like, you know, using Archies and Maxies in the same capacity would be super sweet. So there's like, you know, it's cool. I don't see the deck at the moment. I don't see like what's going to be done, but like I want to experiment with this card and see if it can be done, and it probably got some pretty cool usage.
Oh yeah. I didn't think of any of that when I saw this card, so it's a possibility that maybe it could be a good maybe.
maybe. Yeah, I mean, that's just how I feel about this card. It's just a big maybe. You know, every now and then you just got to include like a really cool, like a possibility. Like this is a cool design space. So I really want to see it be a thing.
Yeah, if you got the room for like one of those funny cards that you can win a tournament with, or like just win a tournament with a funny card in your deck, it's always great to have. And then you could also sometimes, depending on your round, be like, hey, yeah, I did use this card and it helped. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, if that's your goal. Sometimes my goal is just like, I'm going to Final Beat Crisis Punch. Like, that's all I want to do tonight. If I do that, I've won the game. Well, if you Emiris into Rapid Strike Mustard on top of your deck, like, that's a win. That's a win right there.
Uh-huh. Then we got Larry's Efficiency. Discard your hand, then search your deck for a Pokemon card, a supporter card, and a basic energy card. Reveal them and put them into your hand. Then shuffle your deck. This is one of those cards that's very close to Peony, where you got to discard your hand, look for 2 different trainer cards, similar to Rosa and what you can search for. Not necessarily in the same sense. Rosa lets you do it without having to discard your hand. You just have to get knocked out previously. And in Larry's Efficiency, you're just discarding your hand. So if you're one of those decks, I'm looking at fighting that has just naturally low hand sizes, you can use Larry's Efficiency possibly to be able to find a Pokemon that you might need an energy card, a basic, so this can't be a special energy card, so you got to keep that in mind as well. But you can also grab a supporter card and just be able to search it out and get yourself set up for the next turn. So maybe you're doing a sacrifice play and you can grab yourself a teammates. Maybe you're just in a pinch, you need a Pokemon, you have a low hand size, you need all 3 of those things. You're like, man, I wish I was set up next turn. Man, I wish I had 1 energy. And man, I need that Pokemon out there. Boom. Larry's Efficiency is your guy. It might not be the most widely played, and very niche situation type card.
Yeah, this one just kind of falls a little short for me. Like, I feel like we needed to include it because, again, it's very similar to cards that do see play. The mention of Peony and Rosa there are kind of 2 really close ones. It's just like the fact that you have to discard your hand and then you have to grab a card you can't play that same turn. It's just a little rough, right? You've played your supporter, but now you have to go search for a supporter. So, like, you give your opponent information, like, hey, this card's in my hand, come look at it, while not being able to play that too. Whereas, like, Peony and Rosa are any trainer cards, right? So you could grab items, tools, stadiums. You could basically play all those, those cards that turn. And then if you have like a draw up to effect, your barrels and your Octilleries, you could see 5 new cards that same turn. Larry's Efficiency might even be like pretty cool in that same situation because like it could technically get you and set you up for, we were just talking about it, Archies or Maxies, right? Like you could set up an Archies or Maxies play with it. You've just, grab these 3 cards, you played 2 of them. Archies is your last card in hand. Hopefully you draw a playable card off the top for your next turn. You could do the thing, but Peony and Rosa can do those too, right? Because they can get you a new trainer. So I just think there are better options, but Larry's Efficiency is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's not terrible, but like I said, just very niche situations that you could probably use Larry's Efficiency efficiently.
He is nothing but efficient.
Oh, he's so efficient.
He's also probably my favorite character from the newest game. Just like if there's one person that kind of like I identify with in the Pokemon universe, like everyone else is like, I'm running around happy, throwing Pokeballs at things and catching them. And he's just like, hey, this is my job. I'm like, that's me. That's me.
This is my job. I do not enjoy this. I'm just here to collect a paycheck, put on glove.
I thought it was kind of bold too of Pokemon, right? Like to put someone in the universe that's like, it's just like, so like, hey, this is a salary man in the Pokemon universe. Like he is Pokemon training for the money. He goes home and he does something else for fun. Pokemon's just for the cash.
Yeah, he should have a Meowth or something like that.
Ooh, that's right, payday, baby.
Oh yeah, but that's it for Prismatic Evolutions. Not a whole lot of anything coming from there besides more blingy cards for you to bling out your decks. And that's pretty much it on Prismatic Evolutions. But we do have some good news. Twinleaf, we mentioned this in the last podcast, but Twinleaf is currently in open beta, so you have easier access to this, which is really awesome, and they're actually working really hard to get everything working well and smoothly, and GLC has quite a bit for you to work with now. So You don't have to worry about too many cards that might be missing from your decks. There might be 1 or 2 cards, but most of the time it's going to be those less efficient cards that are more niche. So eventually there will be all the ones that you might want. But for now, most, I want to say 95% of what you're looking for will probably be on there. So Twinleaf has been pretty cool. Jeff has been running tournaments every Monday night during the closed beta. I've been participating in them, and they've been going by decently smooth. At the beginning, there were, problems with the Discord. Well, not the Discord, the server going down, but now that happens a lot less, and it hasn't happened in quite a bit of time, to my knowledge. So it's been a fun journey to be a part of it, and I think it's going to be, pretty successful.
Yeah, no, I agree too. I mean, one of the things about webcam is, it's an unfortunate gatekeeper, right? I love webcam Gym Leader Challenge. I love the people that participate in it. I love that we can still be able to play, but let's just cut to the chase. It's been very limiting on creativity. It's a select few that are playing webcam that you're always going to look at the same list, or at least the same style of list. Let's be honest, we all have our own style when it comes to deck building. So you're just going to, it's a vacuum, right? This online community that has been fostered is a vacuum. And then we've got Full Grip Games as a vacuum, and Twinleaf being an open beta is just going to open up so anyone can log in and play. I'm hoping that besides the tournaments that I run on Mondays, that other people will start running tournaments, and we'll have all this, new data, and we'll see all these new cooks cooking on, Twinleaf. You mentioned it, Josh, not all the cards are available. So some of that is going to be kind of kept in check to a certain degree, at least for a while cards get added. But let's be honest, any online GLC is great. And I will die on this hill. Having an online client is amazing. I will never, ever, ever, after the sunsetting of PTCGO, complain about anything Twinleaf, because it's just so great to have it. It's just so great to be able to play it. And I feel like, Josh, you and I both say it every week. We finally have a place to misplay. We get to misplay again. We get to misclick again. And I'm sitting over here. I'm like, dang, I passed the turn without playing this card. I'm like, you know what? I get to do it. And just it's just my brain is just in a different place, because PTCGO was great, but it's gone, guys. It's gone. We got Twinleaf.
It is gone.
And it's great. Twinleaf is great. So love it. Yeah. Love it for what it is. Love it for what it's going to be. See the potential. Help the developers out by reporting bugs if you're playing. Let's make this Gym Leader Challenge's online home. We got to make our home. We got to put in the effort too. We got to do our chores, guys. Our chores are reporting bugs. So I'm hopping off my soapbox now. Let's talk about some of these picks that we got from the gameplay, though.
Man, I tell you what, though, if you get on any more hills, we might not have any hills left.
I'm a hiker
to get on top of.
I'm a hiker Bammy. Can I say?
Anyways, we have a screenshot from in-game. I played against the GLC bot, so I can get some really good picks for you guys. And unlike usually, this was this is turn 2 for me. And I was like, are you kidding me? This never happens when I'm playing in a tournament. But this right here, I was like, if this, I got Iono for the next turn if I want to get something else. I got Magnezone up. I got all this stuff. I hit a 2 or 3 energy Metal Maker. It was insane.
I don't believe you. This is altered. This is clearly altered. No one's ever hit 2 energies off of Metang's Metal Maker ever. Lies.
Brother, it was insane. It was insane. But yeah, this right here, really, this is what you can expect when going into it. We got V-Star GX markers if you're playing standard or expanded. You got your prizes. It's just set up like usual. I personally would like to see the cards to be a little bit bigger sometimes. I think the cards are a little small, especially if you're playing on like a MacBook Air or something like that. Things are a lot smaller. So I found myself kind of going like this.
Well, I will say, Josh, that you can change, there's 2 things for that, because I also found that to be an issue too. You can go into the settings and change the card image sizes from there. And then you can go to your browser settings and you can zoom in And when you zoom in, the cards adjust too. So like there are two ways to get around that. So I found myself usually playing on a Google Chrome setting, like 150 zoom. And that for me feels really, really nice. It keeps like both hands like clearly visible and large, and it also keeps the cards kind of nice and large on the screen.
So because I was playing the other day and a 1 looked like a 2. So I thought I was hitting 420, but no, I was only hitting 410, and I thought that was pretty funny. But then we got another screenshot here. This is in-game, and then we got the in-game deck builder. So you can search for any of the cards that you're looking for. In the left here, you got your Pokemon Trainer energies. If you want to kind of like, filter that, you can filter through format, filter through tags. And then this right here is just, kind of like a small portion of the deck list that I was using for this, just as an example. But yeah, it's a decently smooth deck builder when going into here. I'm not sure if this has problems exporting or importing sometimes, but occasionally you'll have to manually do a little something every now and then, I believe. But other than that, it goes by pretty smooth. Just make sure sometimes that you don't accidentally click something that's on there and forget what it is, because then you will spend forever trying to figure it out. Maybe we need to ask for a undo button.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely something I've done. If you've watched the streams of the tournaments that I've been doing, every now and then I'll be like, yeah, let's click in and check out what this card does. And I'll click on it and shoot it back into like out of my deck and somewhere else. I'm like, dang, I have to sit there and search it. So there is like a little image icon you have to click on to make the cards zoom up as you do that. But yeah, I love the deck builder. You mentioned some of the import-export issues. The last couple times I exported a list from Twinleaf into Limitless, it was a lot smoother. The first couple weeks of closed beta, that stuff was really rough. And then as set numbers got fixed in the Twinleaf system, things were a lot smoother. I'm not going to complain because I will sit there and make a list manually. If I get to play Gym Leader Challenge, I will do that. But then the import has been great too. They added a new feature recently where if you import a list, it pops up what cards didn't import. Yeah. So it'll be like, hey, these cards didn't come in from your deck list. So then you can like copy and paste that list and then kind of just, include those cards. So like having that indicator of what cards are missing makes the manual side of importing a lot easier as well. So will it become seamless? Yeah, of course. Like these developers know what they're doing. They're putting the time in as they go. It's not their jobs at all. So the fact that it's as good as it is now when they all have other gigs that they're doing is incredible. And then just add that on top of it. I think like Weeder took like, probably a couple hours this week to add like all the fire cards in. And so, Tommy has been adding some of the fairy cards in recently. And then Joe has just been kind of fixing some UI and bug stuff as his priorities are mainly standard and other things. So it's just like great. Yeah. Just great. I love it. I am to the moon about it, Josh. I cannot talk about Twinleaf enough. It just makes me smile.
Yeah, it's a pretty smiley. They should change it to Smile Leaf or Twin Smile. Ooh. Anyways, that is Twinleaf. It's been a pleasure to be a part of it, and just getting to enjoy playing GLC online again. But like you said, you kind of have to get back into it because it does provide you a place to misplay a lot more. So you have to get used to not playing with the cards in your hand because you will make plays that are different. It is different because we're not used to playing online like that in a long while. So you got to make sure that you've played that card that you were thinking and having in your hand, that you played it before you skip your turn or attack or something like that.
Yeah, I definitely use like Fusion, Strike, or a Choreo. I think the attack is called like Mix Call. And it lets you grab a Pokemon and a supporter. And I just like, clicked my Pokemon. Okay, let me go get my supporter. And it was like, oh, you're supposed to click both at the same time. And I was like, no, because my entire deck was around using Chorus's Experiment. I was playing a Lost Zone through. And I was like, oh, that's such a punt. But you know what? I got to punt. And that's all that matters.
Yeah. Hey, you just have to make sure you do your best not to do it again. I do that all the time. I'm like, okay, don't do this again. Don't do this again.
I need to get like a list just like on the wall right here next to my computer. Okay, don't do these things while you play. Of course, the list could be too long. So
every time you click, it says, did you use your supporter? Did you attach an energy? Did you use that card?
Yeah, that's right. I need like a nag setting. Like, hey, you're playing this energy here. Are you sure? Like, I need a confirmation click for everything. But no, I don't.
That's what I've been.
Just be better. I should just be better in the game.
I keep that setting on in a pocket right now because I will sometimes forget to put an energy out of my energy zone. So like whenever I'm playing on there, I keep that message on there. Are you sure you want to attack or are you sure you want to end? I keep that message on there all the time. And sometimes that still doesn't stop me.
You said
we got some tournament results from Full Grip Games. And this is going to be courtesy through morsemakes.com. If you want to keep up with anything Full Grip or anything like that, you can always go to morsemakes.com. And he has, under the GLC stats option, all the information that you would love to see coming out of Full Grip, the birthplace of GLC. And we're just going to take a few looks at a couple decks here. And we got Fran, who won on December 12th. Sometimes when we do these deck lists, we like to go back the last 2 to 3 weeks. And anyways, we've got a fun fire deck. And this is at a glance, because I don't want to look too deep into it, to be honest, because I've been wanting to build a fire deck and I don't want to be influenced too much with any other deck that's been out. But I do notice at first glance that it is playing the new Gouging Fire in Skeledirge, and I 100%, those are the two cards. And we talked about this whenever we were doing our set review, whenever they did come out, that these are the cards that I would love to play. I think they're going to be awesome cards. They're really good, and they just bring a whole new flair to fire.
Yeah, I mean, Gouging Fire, we kind of all pinpointed, that's a card. That's going to be good. Let's put that in our fire decks. Skeledirge, I think both you and I maybe had some reservations about it just because it's a stage 2. But, it's obviously one of Fire's best attackers, and here we see it getting a result. So I'm excited to see it out. It's got Snorlax's ability where it can't be affected by effects from your opponent's attacks. So that's pretty cool. I tried to, a lot of shame here. I tried to put damage counters on a Skeledirge the other night. I got to read the cards, guys, but it did not work because of its ability. So that was that. But this deck is really cool. I'm really excited about that. You mentioned those two cards. My eyes immediately jump to Swordward and Shieldbert, like a card that you never see play. So if you guys don't know what this card does, I had to pull it up on screen here while Josh was talking. It's choose a trainer card from your discard pile, then ask your opponent if you could put it into your hand. If yes, put that card into your hand. If no, draw 3 cards. Like, it's just a hilarious card from hilarious characters. I love that was put in here by Fran. It's just so great. Like, I think this is really good. I don't know if everyone's going to be playing Swordward or Shieldbert. I hope that this list finds its way onto the Gym Leader Challenge official website and that all people just buy it. But it's a cool card. I probably should get one just for a moment like this.
It's kind of funny because you can see the parallel between Swordward and Shieldbert. And how do you make swords and shields? Well, in the fire, in the hearth, in the miner, or what, the blacksmith makes swords, makes shields. So this is just like that medieval deck. What is a good name? What can we call this deck? Some type of medieval name. We need to hear some of those in the comments. Give us a good name for this deck. If Frank's listening.
Ancient Hearth. Because you got Gouging Fire that's an ancient now, I don't know. But anyway, let us know. I know some people have been calling this because Skeledirge is Swamp Fang. I think we have Swamp Fire has been a name that's floated around a little bit. But yeah, cool list. I love this list.
Yeah.
I'm going to be playing this at some point. Cool.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Fire with the new additions for sure, and I'm excited to eventually build one. I kind of ran out of cards a little bit because I recently finally built a colorless deck, and I've been so excited to build a colorless deck for so long. I just haven't in the past because I had a buddy who played colorless, and I wanted to stay away from the same types. So I'm at this point where I'm just building out every type again. So I'm finally going to build some colorless. It's going to be a good time.
I think I've got 3 colorless decks built, Josh. Not to one up you, but I need to know what colorless deck did you build? Did you just build straight turbo colorless? Did you go crazy code? Where are you at in your colorless build?
Well, since I played the Porygon Z with Crazy Code in Standard a lot, I really wanted to. I just like rain dance effects and energy acceleration, so I'm playing more of that. But I'm trying to look for just, and I'm sure the card pool has been picked through, but I would like to maybe incorporate a little bit of the Licky Licky with Licks Go Crazy with that, just because that card is just so silly, and I actually think it's really good. And I think it makes you like discards the energy from your opponent's Pokemon, active Pokemon, and then some other things along with it. And it's just such an annoying card, but it's so funny. It's just so silly. I love it. So I want to try to incorporate that into there. And then I remember seeing the Tornadus in a standard game on regionals once, and I believe that Tornadus was like it was like a 1 out of 60 that nobody played. So it was like a 1 of tech card. And basically it's just a one-sided escape rope where you just push. And it's like a very close to Fion in water where you just use it and it just pushes the active Pokemon out of the active. So that's really cool. So I'm going to try to incorporate that amongst some other things. Of course, keeping the Slay King in there because I love me some Slay King as well.
Cool. I approve of all that. That Licks Go Crazy card has definitely ruined me on stream before, so I approve.
Yeah, then we got JD coming in hot with his fighting deck. We got Okidogi, Colossal, Zapdos, Sudowoodo. So we got all sorts of those. But then we got the Ancients down below. So we got Great Tusk, Slitherwing, and the Koraidon with the, I believe it's Unrelenting. I can't remember the attack name, but you hit for, I believe, 30. And then if you had an Ancient Pokemon attack prior, it hits for another 150, I think. Or maybe you're hitting for 150. Is that correct, Jeff?
Yeah, it's 30 plus the 150. So like you
okay,
180.
So, yeah, so you're hitting 180.
Another Ancient attack. So there's like some weird rules that pop up. Like if you attack with Koraidon and then scoop it up, you can play the Koraidon again, and then it does 180 because it sees the original version as another Mon. And so it just needs to change zones for Koraidon itself to be considered another Ancient as per the text. But if you like were to Thornton or Ninja Boy it doesn't work because that card registers as the same card. So there's some really cool rules. Obviously, I've done a lot of research because I love me some Ancient fighting. But yeah, this deck is sweet.
Oh yeah, and with the the help from the Colossal with its ability that lets you take a fire, a fighting out of the discard and attach it to your Pokemon in any way you like, I believe. It just kind of gives you that freedom to be able to just load up that Koraidon again, or just load up anything really. Zapdos already kind of loads up itself, but Zapdos is one of those interesting tech cards that whenever you do play it down, you can attach up to 2 fighting energy cards from your hand, and then, just attach one other card. Hits for 70, but it also paralyzes. So in a pinch, that card is really good at just kind of keeping your opponent at bay and just kind of getting some damage on that Pokemon to maybe follow up with something else, such as a Slitherwing or Great Tusk, because most of the time when you're using Koraidon, you're trying to hit for that 180. Lucario is only hitting for, for 1 energy. If it gets knocked out, for 120 more, so you're hitting for 150 for 1. Okidogi is just one of those big old, just like a wall card, making sure that it can tank some damage. And also, a wall breaker in and of itself at the same time with its ability to add 100 HP and 100 damage. So this deck is pretty cool. I do like it. I do like this deck a lot. What about you, Jeff? I know you love Ancients.
Yeah, I love this deck a lot too. And I think the thing I love about this the most is, I've had my Ancient Garganacle list, which is running like Colossal and the Garganacle that accelerates energy from the discard pile. It's like my brain has been like there in that direction for so long. And then you see JD's list come out and he's just playing Colossal. And there's a lot of like similar parts within our list, but it's like it's so different with like the options that he decided to go with and like supporters and items and even stadiums, because he's playing like Gape Jog Ball to make sure he can get damage counter so that Great Tusk is a little bit better. There's just like these thoughts that like maybe I considered but didn't think were good enough, or maybe I didn't even consider it at all, right? Like obviously Koraidon and Great Tusk both have, double colorless energy in their attack cost. So he went ahead and just said, here's a twin energy in my deck. And it's just like the way that, he's gone about building this deck is really just different from what I had in my mind's eye. And just seeing this is really inspiring to me. And I want to try this list 100% because I really want to understand this 60 from JD. It looks great. If I were to play a fighting list that wasn't Hitmon Bros, this would probably be it. JD is a great deck builder, a wonderful pilot. We see him do all the time. His grass deck is like, probably one of the hottest tickets right now in grass. So I just love this deck. I can't, again, I'm in such a good mood today because there's just such great things that we're talking about, and this list is one of them.
Oh, yeah. And a card that everybody hated in Standard, and it made its way to GLC, which was crazy, is a Battle VIP Pass. That's a card that you can only play on your first turn if you have it in your hand. So it's one of those cards that are like, you're taking a risk playing this. But we can see that kind of opting out of playing the Buddy Poffin, but mainly because, you only got 1, 2, 3 basics that you might be able to use with that. So, Battle VIP Pass gives you access to those higher HP basics to be able to get them out nice and quick. And then you got Acceleration with Energy with Professor Sada. You got Raihan. And a lot of the time that's going to be, just one of your easy ways to get that energy out. Raihan can add energy to any of those Pokemon. And if you need a twin energy, if you need that, you can just get that out of your deck with that, with either that or the Chorus's Tenacity.
Yeah. You mentioned Battle VIP Pass, and I know a lot of other people have different opinions than I do on this card, but just like in fighting where you don't have any draw power, I just can't bring myself to play Battle VIP Pass, because if that's your mid to late game top deck, you are just crying as a fighting player sometimes. So obviously works for JD. I have not had that same luck. But he's got a couple different outs here. Obviously, fighting has access to Karina, which gets you an item and a fighting Pokemon. So like Karina, Trainer's Mail are both outs. He's got item draw from like Acrobike and Bicycle. So there's a couple different turn 1 outs to get it, besides just drawing into it naturally or playing a draw support to get it. So, LVIP Pass, good if you hit it, bad if you don't. But that's for a different day. I know that Tricky Jim himself, Mahone, I think posted in the Tricky Jim Discord, like, hey, here's a list of, decks that I think should play it. And fighting was one of the cards that one of the decks that he thought should be playing it. I'm just of a dissenting opinion.
Maybe the problem is, Jeff, is that we're just not risk takers. You got to be a risk taker. You got to risk being able to draw dead in the middle of your game to possibly draw this in your first hand and go ham with it.
Risker for the young, Josh. And for the cool. Like I said, I'm a vegetarian, don't drink at all. Dad. Sorry, Battle VIP Pass is not for me.
Yeah, you're like, I ain't invested in the stocks. I'm going to, get those guaranteed. Yeah, I feel you.
I go to bed at 10:30. I go to bed at 10:30, y'all.
First time I saw Battle VIP Pass in the deck, I was like, gee willikers, buddy, that's some risky business there. But I won't ever play it, but I'm glad to see that it gets play still. And, speaking of, if you want to bling out your deck, max rarity with Battle VIP Pass, the China set has golden Battle VIP Pass in their Fusion Strike set, and it is a whopping pretty penny.
Don't even mention that. It's okay, because I actually don't need any copies of Battle VIP Pass.
Same here. That being said, we got some tournament results from the GLC Cardboard Warriors. Usually these are going to be held on Limitless, so you can get your most of your data from the Limitless site. You can just go there and look at most of the online tournaments that you're going to see are going to be under the GLC Cardboard Warriors. But that being said, this first deck we're going to be talking about is not necessarily a Limitless tournament. This is something that they put on just seasonal wise. It's called Async. You can kind of play on your own time, but this right here won the most recent Async League Season 5. And it's going to be this nice grass control deck that might be able to take advantage of the new Budew that has come out or is going to come out.
Yeah. Kudos, shout out to Ghouls. This is called Eggs Mill. It's an interesting deck. It's pure control. So if you're someone who's in pure control, this is the deck for you. Now, the Async League, it has kind of a timer, but not really. Like, the players have to agree to a timer ahead of time in their game. So if there's ever a place where control can find its home, it's going to be an Async League. Ghouls has been playing this deck for years. He did a tournament kind of like interview with Z-Man that you can check out on Twitch, and you can see all of that and him talking about this deck. I think it's like an hour and 40 minutes of him talking about
Ghouls.
If you want to know how to play this deck and, the thoughts behind each and every card pick, go check that out. There's a couple different pieces here that are pretty important. You look at Executor, who's got the blockade attack. It basically stops your opponent from playing supporters, and it does some damage. You'll actually see double turbo energy in this list to actually stop blockade from taking KOs, because you actually don't want to do damage. So the damage reduction from DTE is actually useful in some situations, because you are looking to, at points in the game, stall lock your opponents. You've also got Venomoth that will stop your opponents from playing items for 1 energy. And then you've got Item Lock Vileplume that's just kind of like a stagnant effect on the battlefield. Rabska to protect the bench. And then this deck can take some KOs with Torterra if it needs to, do that and win the game. Pokemon League Headquarters is going to be an all-star card, I think, coming up as decks become more turbo. But, besides that, it's just got a lot of the control packages, Energy Denial. You've got a lot of boss effects to stall. It's just, it's pure control. That's my thoughts about Eggs Mills. But again, I am no expert. Go check out Ghoul's interview. What else can be said except from the person who beat all the other people with this deck?
You know what? I don't like being controlled. Oh, man. Like, control decks are fun. It's a fun challenge to play against every now and then. But I know that I haven't had a whole lot of control decks in GLC. When I have, they haven't been like paired against, that I've been paired against. And whenever I have, it's always kind of a fun challenge, because it doesn't happen all the time, and it doesn't happen in like super important times. But in standard, not too long, like even right now, there is a deck called Block Lax, and I absolutely distaste playing against that deck, because its only thing is that it is putting you in the active spot with something that you don't want there. Keeps you from retreating with the ability of Block Lax, where it just kind of lets you stay in your active position no matter how bad you want to get out of it. And then anyways, they're always just gussing that up, putting their capes on, their Lux cape, their bravery charms, making sure that they're keeping that as high HP as possible, so you're not knocking it out, and you're just sitting there in the active spot just trying to figure out what you can do while they're getting rid of all your cards in the process. So, man, like I remember some of us were like, hey, we know you like Block Lax, but please don't play it. because everybody's trying to play, nobody's playing like the most meta decks, but Block Lag's pretty meta deck can do really well. And you can play it by all means in high stake situations, but like at League, it is not a fun deck to play against. But it's good, so I don't blame anybody. But man, when you're trying to do something and you just can't, it's like you're just sitting there twiddling your thumbs. Hey, what am I here for?
Yeah, know your audience. That's definitely the thing. Async League, competitive League, not a lot of timers running around. That's your place to play Control. So keep it there. If your locals, like Josh mentioned, it's up to you. Do your opponents enjoy that, or your opponents looking to play their craziest meme brews and just have a good time? Because again, it's all about building community in some moments. It's always about being competitive in other moments. Just pick that moment. But I won't fault anyone for playing Control. My personal mantra is just respect your own time. So I will, if I just am not feeling up to that mental challenge on that day, I will scoop it up and just be like, GG's, and I will move on. Value your own time, and oftentimes against Control decks, I will do that, especially if I'm playing a meme-ish deck.
Yeah, and I mean, even in Standard at these huge tournaments, it's not like sometimes it's a good play to do, but Control's not like one of those type of decks that are widely loved, but they can be very good. And I think that this grass deck is probably just one of those really good ones. I've never played against it. I don't play against many Control decks in GLC besides, I don't even think I've played against most of them. I think the only ones I've played against are Ursaluna, from you and a couple others. I played against a Block Lax type colorless style, but I was playing the Lost Zone deck at that time, and I was able to just kind of get rid of the support decently well because that deck plays a lot of switches. So Block Lax is really good against decks that has no switches, little to no switches. So I am lucky that I haven't played against too much Control in GLC anyways.
I mean, the thing about X-Mill is just like from turn 2 potentially, and this was my experience when I played against it. I was playing Krabby Water Spread into Ghoul's Eggs Mill deck. And this is like an async league way back when. And I think he had a turn 2 Executor, which is not uncommon and not something that's too super busted, but it definitely was in this situation. I was just supporter locked. And then Executor has resistance to water. So he had Rabsco, up, so I couldn't spread any damage to the bench. I couldn't do any damage to Executor. And then I also couldn't play any supporters. So it was just like, okay. And, that's a moment where you're like, hey, my Krabby Water Spread deck maybe isn't up to snuff. And you say that and you go, cool, I'm going to play that against someone else's version of their Krabby Water Spread deck, and we'll move on from there.
Yeah, but you always like to see people get success in their deck. So, it makes sense that I think that, like, even though one deck might be really good in a certain type, sometimes that will make that type a little bit better. Like, but you sometimes, like the colorless, like almost every type of colorless deck is just out of this world good, So that kind of, whenever you're thinking about what types are best, that you kind of got to put that into effect, which I think grass might be getting a bump with that Budew.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, consistency is king, right? I think this is alluding to the fact that we both rated grass as maybe the worst type of 2024 last time out on this podcast. And obviously then it just won the Async League. But, when Roserade is really your only consistency engine besides having like Pokemon Search, things just aren't as great as decks that have Octillery and Drizzile and Inteleon. So that's why we rated grass a little bit lower, even though there is a powerful deck out there like Eggs Mill. And there are good results being put up by Rillasaur too. It just doesn't feel quite as good as some of these other types and the things that they're getting. So anyway,
I probably should have put Metal as the worst.
I mean,
Metal has not been treating me well.
Real good.
It is, but it has not been treating me as well as I want to be.
User error. I'm not going to talk 100%. Else is misplaced.
100%. Yeah, it's all me, man, for sure. But we also had a Christmas Clash happen over the Christmas season. I believe this happened on the 28th or something like that. It was like right after Christmas, the weekend after Christmas. We got Bruno Neves winning with his famous Water Special Whales deck. So we got the nice Special Whale Lord and the Kyogre Snipe. So he's been playing this deck for a long time, really refined it down to what his play style is. And, you know, I always love seeing Bruno at the top of the leaderboard with this water deck. And also because his surname in Discord always has something like ban the whale in it. And I'm like, no. Well, I guess now they can. We just got another whale that got announced, but we'll talk about that in a later podcast.
Yeah. I mean, I love this list from Bruno. Obviously, Brazilian whales has been dominating, you know, down south. That, you know, it's hard to say what other decks have been doing well because they all think that Wailord is one of the biggest problems. Well, it's weird that, like, when in the States, I do think that Wailord is a really strong, powerful card. A lot of people think it's maybe bannable too, but I'm kind of like right in the middle. I think it's just a powerful card and pretty good for this format because there are ways to get around it, but it's good. And this list kind of plays into what's great about Wailord. You know, you've got Kyogre and Wailord as kind of like big hitters. 180 to the bench from Kyogre is huge at times. Inteleon becomes a real attacker in this list. You know, your recovery comes basically from like Nessa. You've got Splash Energy. You've got Rescue Stretcher. And that's really it. You rely a lot on Starmie to get back energies, and obviously VS Seeker for Nessa on the whole. You know, you're trying to accelerate energies with Excalibur or Frostmoth, and then just find that one key special energy when you need to, because this list has no way to search up special energy beyond, you know, Raihan and teammates, like no Guzmahala, no Colress's Tenacity. So again, you're hoping to just kind of like wheel into those cards and find them when you need to. And then just like, hey, because I only got Splash Energy, Nessa, and Rescue Stretcher as options for recovery, we're going to play a little bit more into tank and heal. So you got Rough Seas, you've got Switch Raft as some incidental heal. No Matlow and Lana, but, you know, Pot Helmet to reduce that damage too. So this is just a really cool list. The Wishy Washy with the Scatter ability is just one of like the most busted cards in a list like this. You just don't really see it, and that's a card that I never really rated that high, but like as a stall mechanic, as you're trying to set back up another attacker, that Wishy Washy can put in work. 180 HP on a basic is just rude.
Hey, what better way to be rude than a school of fish protecting each other and working as a team to make sure that they don't get knocked out.
I mean, I work at a school, so I don't want to spend my free time at one. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, Bruno Neves with his awesome water list that he's always playing and refining. And then for the runner-up for the Christmas Clash, we had Mickey B313. And he played an interesting fighting list with the Phalanx where it's kind of like a setup card to where it lets you look for 2 basic Pokemon, put them on their bench. And then if you can put another energy on the next turn, I believe it lets you hit for 30 plus not another 90 if you used that first attack prior. So it just kind of sets up your Pokemon and then lets you hit for a 120. And then after that, it's kind of just there. Unless if your opponent's dead drawing and you can kind of just set up again. But that's like another 2 turns. But Phalanx is one of those cards that I thought were going to be decently interesting as well. It's just a nice setup and then a whap on the next one. Then we got, I'll let Jeff talk on the Annihilate here in a little bit because that's one of his favorite fighting cards. But then we got Sudowoodo with the attack that lets you, just kind of hit as like a, what's the word? Copycat attack, I believe. I think this is the copycat attack.
You talking about the Sudowoodo?
Yeah, is it a different one?
No, it's a different one. So this was actually, blew my mind. Because at first I was like, oh, hey, copycat Sudowoodo. That's interesting. No, it's the draw Sudowoodo. So the first attack is just like draw some cards. And then the second attack is just like do X damage plus X more for each damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon. So like it's just a really cool, interesting Sudowoodo. Mickey talked about why he picked it up. He was just like, I tested it and it worked, and I went with it.
That's wild.
It worked out for him in the Christmas clash.
Yeah. I didn't even look twice at it because I was like, oh, this is just a copycat Sudowoodo. And then I was looking at it just now and I was like, wait, it's not the copycat Sudowoodo. I was like, which one is this one? Anyways, then you got Okidogi. You're playing that in most fighting decks just because Okidogi is such a good meta warping card. It's your answer to a lot of decks that fighting might have problems with. But then you just got your standard array. We got Arizu with it, trying to find 3 evolution Pokemon and let you evolve them, because we are playing 2 stage 2s and 1 stage 1. It's important for fighting to be able to get their evolution cards. So if you can find all of those, maybe even be able to set yourself up for a few turns, Arizu is really good for that. Then you just got your really awesome Kofu that lets you put 2 cards, I believe, right? I always get this wrong. 2 cards and then draw 4.
Yep, 2 cards on the bottom, draw forward 4.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. But yeah, let's talk about that Annihilate, Jeff. What do you love most about this Annihilate?
Well, this Annihilate is just like the Wailord killer. And so when you look at this list, you obviously say, hey, Mickey has realized 2 things about fighting. He's realized, hey, you need the lowest amount of cards possible to be able to attack. And so a lot of these are 1 energy attackers, 2 energy attackers that can do a ton of damage. So, hey, that's what he noticed at first. And then the second thing is you got to make sure you have a Wailord answer, especially in today's perceived meta. Any tournament that Bruno Neves signs up for, there's probably going to be a Wailord about. So have something to do with Wailord. So that's what Annihilate does. It does 70 times the amount of prizes that your opponent's taken. So again, you're going to come down to a point where, 4 prizes have been taken and it's going to do 280 damage. Just busted for 1 energy. Obviously, stage 2 is a bit of an issue, but you'll notice here in this list just so many ways to get down basics early. Artisan, Brooklet Hill, you have all the different balls from your ball guide. Buddy Poffin to get your evolving basics down. And then you've got, Training Court, which I think is huge in a list like this. Just to always have it out to grab energy is great. And then you see 15 supporters. Again, that's just a nod to, hey, fighting doesn't have a lot of on-board support. Let's play a decent amount of supporters, plus cards like Trainer's Mail, even Pokegear 3.0 here, to add some consistency to what we're doing. So I love this list. It's just a really efficient, low-costed attacker. Punch you in the face, do all that fighting does well. Do it here. Kudos to Mickey.
I got a new name for those decks that play low amounts of energy. I know that a famous or more popular saying is lo-fi, like lo-fi water, lo-fi this. But I think I'm going to start going low main. I think low main is
respect that a lot. I thought you were going to go like Manny Pacquiao because he was so short, but
you can go that route too. But yeah, congratulations to Mickey B313 on that runner-up on that Christmas Clash. And then we got this another deck right here. This is also another one of those more interesting decks. We're playing Evan Wiki won on 1229 on Limitless on one of the tournaments with a double deluge super cold for the Baisch Caliber deck, where we're having 2 stage 2 accelerators that can accelerate water energies from your hand in any way you like, as much as you want. As many energy as you have, you can move around from your hand. And then it's also playing, you got your standard Kyogre, you got your Octillery, your awesome Inteleon line. It's really, I'm so glad he's playing the Blastoise, because to be honest, the reason why I started with water was because of Blastoise. That was the only reason. I had no idea water was good. I just wanted to play Blastoise because he was my favorite, like one of my favorite starters. He's in my top 5 favorite Pokemon. So I was like, yes, I want to play this awesome water deck. But what makes this deck really special is that we're playing Iron Bundle. and Ice Cube. We're playing the Penguins. So Ice Cube has the attack for 1 water, 2 colorless, hitting for 70, but it doesn't let your opponent hit you back. They can't hit you back with basic attackers. It just makes your Ice Cube immune from basic attackers. And then what if they have an evolution Pokemon? I'll tell you what, we're just going to go to Iron Bundle, where pretty much the same exact attack, hitting for 1 water, 2 colorless. I believe it's for 70 damage as well, or is it 90? I can't read it from here. It's really small.
7.
But 70, so it's 70 still. But now your opponent cannot attack back with their evolution Pokemon. So this is just like a choose your own adventure deck. What does your opponent have? And then depending on what your opponent has, you can just roundhouse kick them with these Penguins.
Oh, I might have been a little bit wrong. Iron Bundle is 80 for 3, and then Ice Cube is 70 for 3. All right, just for clarification.
Clarification, but not too far off.
Yep. Now, this is sweet. I mean, Evan Wiki saw that, obviously, Kyogre's busted, right? What's the best way to use Kyogre is to Rain Dance energy back onto it, which Frostmoth cannot do. So if you can't play Bax plus Frostmoth, just play them both, because water is just so good about turn 2 Irida Rare Candy Evolve, right? It's just so good at that. So just play to water strength and then tune your deck to your meta. I mean, if there was a guide on how to tune your deck to what meta you expect to walk into, this is the deck. I mean, you see 70 HP basics plus a bench barrier. This person was clearly worried about Raging Bolt. You see an answer for basics, which we see a lot of turbo basic builds, whether that's colorless, whether that's dragon builds. Like, colorless has to attack into you with Budew if they're playing a turbo colorless build. Like, there's no way to get around the Ice Cube besides Budew. And so you can just basically Ice Cube them into oblivion. So, like, this is just the perfect meta call and a wonderful shell and a deck and archetype that's just really good at teching, because Drizzile and Inteleon and Octillery exist. So this deck is great. I love everything about it. You even see like Superior Energy Retrieval down here as a card. Discard 2, get 4 energy back from your discard pile so that you can play into what Bax and Blastoise do best. I mean, kudos, Evan Wiki. Go beat that meta, and he did.
Yes, it was awesome. Whenever I did see this deck on Limitless, because every now and then I will check the Limitless standings just to see how everything did, and I was like, what? And then I read, I know what Ice Cube does, I know what Iron Bundle does, but I was like, man, because there's a Metagross that I'm always tempted to play, because you can play it for 3 energy, and it also does the same thing where your opponent's evolution Pokemon can't attack or do any damage. So it's definitely one of those, it's kind of like a control-y attacky at the same time, which is awesome. And it's just very minimal control, but it's just enough to do really well. And it's definitely a deck that, I haven't seen yet. So congratulations for that win.
Are we going to have to start playing Pokemon Ranger? Yeah, we've talked about these effects of attacks. We talked about Egg's Mill earlier on, right, that had effects of attack. I mean, you can't play Pokemon Ranger into Executor anyway, but it's like, are we going to have to start finding ways to get around effects of attack? Like, that's where this seems to be going.
Man, the only way I think that you can do that is if you know who you're playing against and they have a good odds of playing it. I think that's the only way that's going to make Pokemon Ranger worth it.
Now we're playing chess, guys. We're playing chess.
4D, 6D, 7D chess. And then we got Eric Mayville's Psychic deck. This Psychic deck is definitely interesting. It seems like a mix between some spread, some special energy, just kind of like a smorgasbord of all of your possibly favorite Psychic Pokemon. So you have the Dusknoir, and then you have like Dusclops that has the blow-up ability where you can do 5 damage counters on the stage 1, 13 damage counters with the stage 2. to any one of your opponent's Pokemon. As long as it's just on that one Pokemon, you can do damage to them. So sometimes that can soften them up just enough for you to be able to hit them for that number. You got your Malamar that has a second recharge, getting those energy out from the discard pile. And then you got Iron Boulder. You got Iron Boulder. So with Iron Boulder, with one psychic, one colorless, you're hitting for 170 as long as you and your opponent have the same hand size. So with that, you'll see a few cards in here that help manipulate some of that hand size. So you have Iono. That's a manipulator of hand size. Judge is an auto manipulator, 4/4. Marnie, it's pretty easy to kind of burn a card to where you can get the same hand size. And then kind of like an alternative way, you have Mismagius here, which if you blow that sucker up, you can draw up to 7 cards in your hand. And depending on how much you need to play or if you needed to catch up, if they had 7, then you can kind of manipulate your hand size and hopefully just enough to be able to hit that 170 with Iron Boulder. But then some of the things that are like guaranteed, you have the Necrozma with the special energy attack. You're hitting for 160. And then Mewtwo as that wall breaker towards the end, like mid to late game. But yeah, it just seems to me like a smorgasbord of like your favorite psychic Pokemon that have come out recently.
Yeah, this is, I think this is really, really close to Andrew Mahone's list that he put on stream a couple weeks ago on Tricky Gym. This is kind of like the psychic prize manipulation. We had Logan play this against my Lightning Zone build the other night. And the games go by really fast because, like you mentioned, you're blowing up your own dudes to give prizes. And then you've also got the babies here. You got Cleffa and Smoochum. Smoochum, one of the newer cards, basically is like Turbo Energize on a stick for a free attack and free retreat. And you got Cleffa that draws you up to 7 too. So your deck is just kind of looking to like give up some free prizes maybe, and then just take advantage of what all the cards that Psychic has together. Because every Psychic deck just kind of feels like Psychic good stuff because all Psychic is good stuff, right? And so that's what you kind of got here on display. This deck makes really good use of counter, and you even see reversal energy. Are you attaching reversal to Dusknoir and taking a KO and then blowing it up the next turn to take another KO? Maybe. Like, that's pretty sick. So there's some really cool things going on in this list. Mewtwo is a house, and the fact that you can manipulate the turns to get to the Mewtwo quicker is kind of cool. Because once you get ahead with this deck, you can kind of stay ahead if you know what you're doing. But this deck is all about sequencing, because if you're going to be using Iron Boulder, you know, you've got to make sure you're using your Kirlia draw power at the appropriate times to get your hands to match, so that then maybe you play a Marnie and you know what cards to play. Because if you judge and then have to play an extra energy, your hand doesn't match. So it's all about sequencing, and this is just one of those big brain decks. And if that's something you like to do, I think that that's here. I love this deck. I love Psychic. This is good.
Yeah, this is one of those decks. You mentioned big brain decks. I love playing big brain decks, but sometimes my brain isn't big enough to play these decks fast enough. And I'm already a slow player to begin with. I mean, I really am. I'm going to have to admit it at some point that I am just naturally a slow player. Like I'll be playing at regionals, and I'm playing a turbo style deck, and we're getting, close to time. And I'm like, I'm playing a turbo deck, guys. Why am I taking so long? But anyways, yeah, this is definitely an interesting deck. And, I like decks that you have to use like tons of different sequencing. You have to make sure that you're using this at the right time and stuff like that. So that's one of the reasons why I love the Lost Zone deck. Is just there's just so much things that you're doing with your hands during the time, and putting Lost Zone in this, make sure you're doing this. I just love those type of style decks. They're just so fun to me.
Yeah, game actions are fun, and that's what this deck is all about, game actions. And Josh, I would not worry about going to time with this deck. I mean, you're giving your opponent like 3 free prizes in the game. Like, you are definitely making the games much shorter with your own strategy. So it's cool. Like, you will never go to time. Try this deck out, though. I think it's really cool. Again, congrats to Eric Mayfield on his, I think it was a 4-0, if I'm not mistaken, on January 9th. Congrats to him.
Oh, yeah. And that leads us to, if you just take a look at this meme right here with the partner Pokemon coming back. There's an opportunity that you can play your favorite Pokemon twice in one deck. And
you already could, Josh. You already could. Wheezing and Galarian Wheezing. You already can.
Yeah, I guess you could. But, you're playing a different regional, variant of that. But this one, you can play the exact same one. And it's got me pretty excited. I kind of got let down the other day whenever the new Metagross got announced. And I was like, oh, Metagross, yeah. And I look at it. Not only is it just absolutely unplayable, but it's psychic. And I know that it has psychic cards in the past, but I was like, oh my goodness. And it's not even Stevens. We were expecting like a Stevens Metagross, it'd been awesome, but that's besides the point. I was like, man, that was such a letdown. I was like, why'd you guys have to show me this?
Never get your hopes up. You'll never be let down.
There you go. But like, this is Brock's face right here is the exact face I made whenever I realized, oh yeah, I can play, with seeing Hop Snorlax and Snorlax, like that's cool. But you can play your favorite Pokemon twice if you're lucky enough to have your favorite Pokemon be a partner Pokemon. So, and we're just gonna have to wait and see. They should print partner Pokemon for the remainder of this block, I believe, which is like 5 to 6 sets. So I'm excited. I'm hoping that they print enough and cool ones at that.
Yeah, I think that, to be honest, I think that might be great for Gym Leader Challenge. The fact that you can play multiples of the same Pokemon, because we all have our favorites, right? It's obviously going to be like a feels bad if your favorite Pokemon doesn't get picked. Like one of my favorites is Krabby, and I know for a fact that nobody's got a partner Krabby, I'm pretty sure, unless they give me go way back and like, here's Red's Krabby, if you recall Ash having Krabby back in the TV show anyway. I don't know if that, but okay. But hey, some of these classically favorite, are we going to see Lance's Dragonite? That would be super sick. I mean, I just want some really cool partner Pokemon so that we can play multiples of the same Pokemon, and just be happy about that. Be happy for those people that get them. I'm happy for Snorlax lovers out there. Again, we don't need it to be banned because I don't think I can go through another rebrand, Josh.
Hey, man, I don't think we need to worry about it. I think it's there, man. It is there to stay. But it was kind of really cool to see that. I was like, yes, this is going to be really cool. And what this is going to do is it's going to make Lost City not so bad a card, because now, the only reason why I don't like Lost City is because whenever I have a specific Pokemon, and it couldn't even be like the best Pokemon. Let's call it something like Jumpluff. If I'm playing a grass deck and I'm playing Jumpluff, I don't want to get it Lost City because I want to try to actually do the thing that it's supposed to do, So it might make Lost City a little bit better for me if I could have one of my favorite Pokemon become a partner Pokemon, and I can just have 2 of whatever it is. Even if it's bad, I just want to be able to, do what I was wanting to do with the deck. Like Metagross in my metal deck right now, I'm not going to get rid of it because I just love Metagross so much. And all I want to do is mid to late game is Meteor Mash for 100 and maybe 200 the next turn. But if it gets Lost City'd, like even the Beldum, I just want to use Metagross, even if it's a bad call. It's just one of my favorite things,
Well, if you have a partner Pokemon now, I can just go Lusamine, Lost City it back into play, get rid of it twice. Hey, everyone wins. Everyone.
I know if that happens, I'm done.
Josh, you heard it from here. Josh will retire if he gets double Lost City on his partner Pokemon.
That would be, I don't know. I'd probably just laugh, man. It'd probably be the most hilarious thing ever. That's funny to think about.
I'd chuckle and cry for you.
Well, with that being said, guys, we're going to call it, man. I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast so far. I mean, we got Prismatic Evolutions coming out, which is going to be kind of fun to bling out your decks. Not a whole lot of playable things from it coming out, but like bling out is going to be really cool. We got all these different tournaments that are happening. Although it's just, usually just online tournaments, but with the possibility of full grip games 1Ks coming back, we're going to have some really cool things to look at right there. And Andrew Mahone, you'll see on his Tricky Gym YouTube channel as well as Tricky Gym Twitch channel, that he's going to be streaming quite a bit of those things. He's going to start streaming those, his GLC locals and those 1Ks. So we got all that to look forward to, so we can have some more GLC data like happening right before our very eyes and not just having to wonder, what else is good out there, what's going on out there. So I think it's going to be really cool to have all that coming out. And what the GLC 1Ks do is it gives the opportunity for all these different bubbles of GLC metas to come together possibly and be able to, just kind of show what they have. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah. That's March 30th, if I'm not mistaken. March 30th at Full Group Games
30th
is when that 1K is going to be. And those 1Ks have been exciting to watch. I still pull up the YouTube videos and watch those to this day. They're sweet watches. And then you also get to not that we're hoping for any bannings, but if there are cards on the watch list and they do super well and they happen right there, those cards can be dealt with if they need to, but I don't foresee any bannings from this tournament at all. I think the metas are the great place on the whole. I'm excited to see what the meta looks like. I think that's the most exciting thing. We don't really have a meta. You mentioned all the different bubbles. So seeing what people are going to bring to a 1K when there's actual stakes on the line besides a little sticker badge, that's what I'm most excited about. Josh, you're planning on attending if I'm not mistaken, right?
I'm going to try my very, very, very best. I'm looking at flights, but the only way I'm going to be able to make money back is if I win, and that's going to cover part of my flight.
Whoa. It's about the journey, and if the podcast blows up, the podcast can pay your way. So if you're listening to this, make sure you subscribe to this channel so that Josh can make it to the 1K and win.
Boom, shakalaka. You heard it here first. Thank you, Jeff, for all the support. And with that being said, we do have a possible guest coming on to maybe talk about some of those 1Ks of the past. But other than that, hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. I'm Josh Bench, and this has been Jeff Baisch on the Unfazed Facts Podcast, a podcast dedicated to all things Gym Leader Challenge. And I hope you guys have a fantastic week.